Hey everybody, we're going to be taking this motorcycle over here. We're at the beach and we're going to be talking about why Christianity is the wise solution. I'll be sharing some of my testimonials of how I left atheism. I was a kid when I was an atheist, and then I grew up, became an adult, and I'm a Christian. I left atheism because there was no evidence that atheism was accurate and correct. And atheism only leads to this dude here, look. So we want you to avoid this dude. So we're going to be taking a nice ride. Let's get the camera adjusted here. When we get on the motorcycle, it needs to be up a bit because we lean forward. So it's a sport bike position here. Let's see. Move it up some more. Not too much. Let's see. That should be good. What do you think? Do you guys know I've been asking atheists all over the world to answer this question, and this is one of the reasons why I left atheism. Is I've never been able to find an atheist that can successfully answer this question. I can't find not even one atheist that can successfully answer it. And here's the question: what proof and evidence can you provide that would finally at last prove that atheism is accurate and correct? Do you know that people have been calling into the Atheist Experience show trying to get them to answer it, and they won't answer it. They evade it. And this is Pacific Coast Highway, by the way. So we're going to be cruising up and down the beach here. It's nice and cool out here. All right, let's see where the GPS is taking us. Oh, okay, good. We're on the right path. Oh, nice and cool. We're going to be throwing in some how to ride a motorcycle, techniques and tips. And, I was doing some research. And they were doing some experiments. You've heard about this. These experiments where they try to create life in a lab, in a laboratory. And then they shocked these different types of compounds with electricity, and they didn't really create like humans or animals or anything like that, and they got existing life and manipulated that life, and then they said, oh, this is probably how life was created. Hold on. In the early form of the earth. Let's see, do I need to go left here? I think I do, but it's, yeah. Let's go over here. And, yeah, that's it, Rosecrans. So, I was like, really? That's really a stretch. That's really a stretch, to say that you shocked these existing compounds with electricity and you created life. That's not really life. We're talking about humans or animals. They couldn't even create plant life. Do you know scientists can't even create a, blade of grass, let alone a human or whatever? Now, they can get existing life, test tube babies, things like that. And I'm just looking at this GPS thing here, what it's telling me to do. But they can't create life. So, how did life get here? And so as an atheist, when I was an atheist, there was no answer for that. And when you really ask people, because they'll bring up these different experiments, like how the guy got electricity and shocked some existing compounds. That's that's a far cry from creating life. That is not creating life. Do you know we've never ever witnessed life coming from non-life? We've never witnessed something like a human or even a animal, or coming from non-life. It's always been something living, a lot of bumps here, that has created other living things. So, where did life come from? Think about it. So I want to talk to you about something. Do you guys know who Ben Shapiro is? Ben Shapiro is a theist, and he rejects atheism. He was at a college university, and an atheist asked him, what is the best argument for the existence of God? And Ben Shapiro said he can never be an atheist. It's not an intellectual position. And he said, obviously, you need something that always existed and didn't have to be created. Otherwise, there would be no life. In other words, is this guy... Okay, just wondering if I'm about to get crashed into. In other words, how were you created? Your parents created you, right? And who created them? Their parents. So there has to be something that always existed that cannot not exist, because if the first thing had to be created, these bumps, I'm telling you, are just... I think I made it. These bumps are just horrendous. If the first thing had to be created and there was nothing there to create it, then it wouldn't be created. So something has to always exist without the need of anything to create it. So we know that the universe had a beginning, right? This dude's coming up on a motorcycle here. We know the universe had a beginning. That's lane splitting, by the way. Lane splitting is legal in California. I gotta go right here, matter of fact, where this dude's going. Let me just... Thank you, brother. Is it this way? Let's see, yeah. So we know that the universe had a beginning. Well, what, pray tell, created it? Fist bump. How you doing, brother? After you. But let's not hit the lady. He's on a Yamaha. I'm on a Yamaha. I think we're both going the same way. So, we know that the universe had to be created, and it had a beginning, but we know that there has to be something that always existed that did not need a beginning. Otherwise, nothing would exist. Think about it. So when people say, who created God? It's the complete opposite. God was never created. He always existed. Makes sense. There has to be something that cannot not exist. Okay, let's see what freeway I'm going to here. What the heck freeway is this? Oh, nice and cool. So you ever notice when you ask atheists, well, where did life come from? They'll bring up these experiments where these compounds were shocked with electricity and then very microscopic compounds appeared. We're going to go like 4 miles on this. In the lab. Well, first of all, you're doing an experiment that is being conducted by an intelligent agent. You're using intelligent design to do the experiment. So you can't use that experiment. What you have to do is find somewhere where life just comes from non-life without you helping it. Then we'll be impressed. You know, they've never been able to do that. One of the other things that really impressed me with Christianity were the prophecies that came true. You know, it was prophesied that Israel would be gathered again to herself as a nation, and that actually happened. That's amazing. You know, there's no other country where that's happened. That's happened to. Let's see. Let's go this way. All right, I'm now in 6th gear. Got another motorcycle coming up here on the left. So let's go through some of the things that just do not make sense about atheism. They don't know where life came from. There's no argument that they have that's against God's existence. They'll say, well, evil exists in the world, therefore God doesn't exist. Okay, give me the argument. We both agree evil lives in the world. Why doesn't God exist? I don't get it. Where's the connection? Nice BMW. They'll say, well, if God existed in this world, there would be no evil. What Bible are these people reading? What Bible are these people reading? Let's get this camera up a little more. My Bible talks about evil from the very first book of Genesis, where Satan rears his ugly head, all the way to Revolution, all the way to the revolution of Revelation, I should say. Excuse me, all the way to Revelation, where the revolution of Christianity is complete, where Jesus comes back and kills, that's right, I said it, kills the Antichrist and his army. Viva la revolution, I say. This is the freeway we're taking here. So evil doesn't prove that God doesn't exist. In fact, if there were no God, we shouldn't even have evil. Every one of us is just a flesh blob of cells and liquid. Why would evil exist if evolution were true? And we're all just blobs of cells. So that whole thing about evil exists, therefore God doesn't exist, proves the complete opposite. Rape, murder, thievery would not be wrong if evil did not exist, right? But evil does exist. Well, where do these objective truths come from? Where the heck is this freeway taking us? So we're getting on this on-ramp here. Let's do a little motorcycle training here. We're not really going fast, but I'm not braking. I'm just kind of downshifting. It's literally at 3,000 RPMs, which is very low on the tach. So I'm trying to give it some speed. See those big bumps right there on these cruddy California roads? You gotta, watch out for that. I see where it's taking us. Let's get on it. This is why I ride a motorcycle. You ever read Revelation where we come back on horses and Jesus Christ is leading the battle and we go to war with the armies of the Antichrist? I'm just practicing. I'm on the steel horse. Oh, now it's telling us over here. There's 2 lane, 1 lane. Now we're downshifting to 5th, downshifting to 4th. I like to keep that engine tight where I have some pull on the throttle where it'll immediately, like this, it'll immediately push me forward. What are some other atheist objections? They'll say because they can't see God with their physical eyes that they'll say God doesn't exist. This is a very lame argument. For example, there's stars out in the heavens, out in the universe, that exist that we can't see with our physical eyes. We haven't seen them yet. Science hasn't discovered them yet we know they exist. This is a very lame argument that atheists make. In fact, there are more things that the atheist has not seen that in fact do exist than things that they have seen that exist. So are we to say that all of the things that they haven't seen with their physical eyes don't exist? This is just stupid. What's another atheist argument that they use? Let's try to think of a really good one that they use. If there was a good one, we'd all be atheists. There's none. But I'll tell you the one argument that if an atheist is honest, they can't be atheists. I'll give you 2 arguments, actually. There's more than that. But first, let me tell you, when you go to godwillreturn.com, okay, godwillreturn.com, click where it says 20 arguments for the existence of God, okay? 20 arguments for the existence of God, and read those. We're going to go through just a few. First, let's talk about the reason why I left atheism. There's no evidence for it. And what's worse than that is when I talk to atheists and say there's no evidence for it, their lame response to me even confirms that I made the right decision by leaving the madness of atheism. I'll say there's no evidence that atheism is accurate and correct. And they'll say, atheism isn't claiming God doesn't exist. This is what they'll say. You've heard it. You know I'm telling the truth. All atheism is saying is that we don't believe in God. So in other words, it's saying that it denies reality. How is that rational? So, let's go through some other arguments. Fact number 1. Atheists have not seen, nor do they have the knowledge of, what exists in 99 99% of our universe. They haven't seen it. They don't know what's in the other 99% of our universe. They don't know the laws of physics. They don't know if the speed of light changes, what that speed is. They don't know how many black holes there are. They don't know if God's in the other part of the universe, let's say. So how can an atheist say God does not exist when they don't even have 1% literally knowledge of what's in our universe? They can't. They're just making a blind faith statement. Another good argument that atheists don't like is ask them, say, give me some proof and evidence that would show that atheism is accurate and correct. Guys, seriously, I've been asking this since, dear Lord, 2006. I've never got an answer to it. I've never got one stitch, one morsel of proof and evidence that would show that atheism is accurate and correct. Where is this proof and evidence that atheism is accurate and correct? You know, if you guys want to make a video and really have a fun time, do a video and I call it the Atheist Challenge or something. And ask the atheist to provide proof and evidence that atheism is accurate and correct. Let me give you a couple of atheist failures right here on YouTube where I asked that question and the atheist failed. So, the Amazing Atheist, #1 most subscribed to atheist on YouTube, I was challenging him over and over, but he ran like a little bunny into his little bunny hole and hid from the question till finally his subscribers drove him mad and made him answer my question. So finally he answers it on a video. He tries to answer it, I should say. His video is called Proving Atheism is True. The kicker to it though is he admits, you got to watch the whole video through, he admits at the very end that he cannot prove that atheism is accurate and correct. To quote him, "So shock of God, I was lying. I can't prove that atheism is accurate and correct." Go look for his video, Proving Atheism is True. He says that. The Atheist Experience Show. When they were challenged to prove that atheism is accurate and correct, here's their answer. Well, I don't have to prove that atheism is accurate and correct. I'm not making a claim. If you ever watch the Atheist Experience Show, time and time again, they try to convince people, they don't do it, but they try to convince people that God does not exist. Their whole show is dedicated to trying to debunk God, and they just can't do it. They try and try and try, and they can't do it, right? So when someone calls up and asks my question, you could try it yourself. Call the Atheist Experience Show and ask them this. What proof and evidence do you have that proves atheism is accurate and correct? And they won't answer it. They won't say, well, we have scientific evidence that God doesn't exist, and here it is. They'll never say that. They won't say, well, we found out that Jesus was a myth, and here's the proof of that. They won't say that because they admit Jesus is real. What they say is this: well, we're not denying that God exists. We're just saying that we reject God. Well, that's exactly what Scripture says. It says that they reject God. You can't reject something if it's not there, right? You ever see a TV show
called the Boogly Boogly Experience Show, where they try to disprove the existence of Boogly Booglies. I'm just making something up. No, you never see that because there are no Boogly Booglies. Now watch someone Google it and find out that there's something called a Boogly Boogly. So this is why atheists spend so much time trying to debunk God, because he does exist. It's actually, when you think about it, the worst thing they could do is spend so much time. Go ahead, my brother. After you. Go ahead. They spend so much time trying to debunk God, it has the reverse effect. We should be thanking atheists that they're obsessed with trying to debunk God. Seriously. Thank you, atheists, for spending so much time talking about how God doesn't exist. We love you guys. Let me squeeze over here in this corner. You know, Thunderfoot could not disprove God's existence. Aaron Ra couldn't. You know, Aaron Ra made a video trying to prove that atheism is actually correct, and all he talked about was evolution. All evolution is a theory on how things change over time. How one fish changes its structure over time. Okay, hello, McFly. How does that prove that God doesn't exist, that things change over time? It doesn't. Do you know that Christians always said that things change over time? The creationists always admitted that things change over time to a degree. That's just called microevolution. How does microevolution prove that God doesn't exist and that atheism is accurate and correct? It doesn't. What do you guys think about atheism being ruled in the courts that it's a religion? Do you think they're religious? Do you think they're religious, the atheists? So, would you guys do me a favor? I've been asking this since 2006. I'd really like to get an answer. Could you click share below this video and send this to your atheist friends? And they're probably watching the video right now because you sent it to them. So let me talk to them for a moment. Excuse me. Hello, fellow atheist friend. I used to be an atheist. Let me introduce myself. And I'm now a Christian. Now, I left atheism because the lack, and I know with the speed of the motorcycle, sometimes it's hard to hear, so I'm going to spell it out. I left atheism because of the lack, L-A-C-K, the lack of evidence that atheism is accurate and correct. There was no evidence at all that proved that atheism was accurate and correct. So, my fellow YouTuber, would you be so kind, if you're an atheist, would you make a video answering this question? What proof and evidence can you provide that proves that atheism is accurate and correct? You'd be the first person ever to do it. Do you know no atheist has been able to do it? And let me save you some time from making the grave error that other atheists have made. Do not make a video saying, all I'm saying is that I don't believe God exists. That's not answering the question. You're just giving me a verbal opinion. What we need is proof and evidence that atheism is accurate and correct. Proof and evidence that would show atheism is accurate and correct. So if you come back with a video saying, well, I just disproved that any gods exist. No, you just can't say it. You've got to give us some type of proof and evidence that would show atheism is accurate and correct. You know, no one has been able to do it. In 2016, I predicted that no atheist for the entire year would be able to prove that atheism is accurate and correct. And sure enough, folks, 2017 got here. Now it's 2018, and I'm making this video in July. So, my fellow atheist friends on YouTube, you've got August, September, October, November, December. You got 5 more months. Are you up to this challenge? Or will 2018 go by just like 2017 did? And 2016 did? And 2015 did? And 2014 did? And 2013 did? And 2012 did? And 2011 did? And 2010 did? And 2009 did? And 2008 did? And 2007 did? And yes, we've been asking this question since 2006. Please, guys, I know you're busy, but I appreciate it. Click share and send this to the angriest, just craziest atheists you know. Click share and send it to them. Maybe they will be able to finally answer that question. God bless you guys. Have a great week.